My name is Nick Qualia here, as always, with Mike Molyneux. Another week without Marv. Marv's a little under the weather, so can't wait to see Marv next week.
Yeah.
So, just me and Mike. And Mike, I believe you remember this. I believe most people remember this, especially the loyal watchers of the show. At the start of the season, as many people believed, a win for the Patriots season would have been they make the playoffs. That would have been cool, right? They make the playoffs after a 7-9 year last year. You have a rookie quarterback this year, not expecting too much. But it's December 7th. So we're recording this Tuesday, December 7th, a day later than usual because the Patriots played on Monday night in Buffalo under horrible, horrible weather circumstances. And they pulled out a win, 14-10. And now the Patriots, not only do they lead the AFC East, they lead the AFC. If the season ended today, let me paint this picture for you. If the season ended today, the Patriots not only have a bye week, but the postseason in the AFC runs through Gillette Stadium.
Sounds familiar.
Who thought we were going to be here?
Sounds like some glory days that we're not too far removed from. But yeah, that's who would have thought.
This is so much better than last year. Last year, by this time, we were like, all right, well, just hurry up the season. Like my fantasy team was really good last year, so I was way more focused on watching Red Zone at 1:00 rather than the Patriots. That last year stuck. And not for nothing, Monday night's game really wasn't that much fun to watch.
Like if it wasn't for it being a Patriots game, yeah, halftime I was probably out. I got work the next morning. Come on now, I got to go to sleep.
So the Patriots, Damian Harris, 10 carries. Ramondre Stevenson, 24 carries. Brandon Bolden, 4 carries. The Patriots basically did nothing but run the football. Mac Jones last night, 2 for 3. One of them was one of those classics, dump off to Brandon Bolden. One of those, let's be honest, he should have been 1 for 3. That first ball he threw to Jonnu Smith, the wind took that thing, and that thing sailed. But Jonnu Smith made an excellent catch. The Patriots, they came into that game with one plan. We are not going to throw the football, and they've stuck to that plan. Mike, just give me your reactions and your thoughts on last night's football game because, again, it wasn't fun. It wasn't pretty. Terrible circumstances, wind gusts of whatever, ridiculous. The goalposts were all over the place. Kicking seemed miserable. Reactions to this game.
If it wasn't Bill Belichick, I think a lot of more people would be confused and in awe and shocked about the Patriots' game plan last night. But because it's Bill Belichick and we've seen similar type of game plans, maybe not this run.
I was going to say nothing like that.
Nothing like last night. But we've seen games where Belichick has the team come out and just, run the ball for like the whole first quarter. Like run the ball for the whole first half or something like that. Last night was different. But again, because we've seen something similar from Bill Belichick, you're not really, really surprised that that's how the game went. With that being said, the Buffalo Bills should be embarrassed. They should be embarrassed.
Don't tell them that. Dude, do not tell them that.
They're in their feelings right now. They don't want to hear it, but let's be honest. I think the whole world watching that game could tell you that the Buffalo Bills should be embarrassed with the fact that the Patriots had one game plan, and they executed that game plan from the first quarter all the way to the fourth quarter. And the only reason why Buffalo was able to get to 10 points, if we're being honest, is because for whatever reason, they decided to put N'Keal Harry back there on punt returns, and the guy just looked like a complete idiot. Shout out to my friend Brian, who said that it gave him some reminders of when they had Cyrus Jones back there doing punt returns.
Oh my God! You remember? You remember, like when the Patriots drafted him, everybody was like, "Okay, this kid is going to be a stud returner, stud returner." And he was brutal. So I'm assuming, like you've seen Sean McDermott, talk about how it wasn't really Bill Belichick that won that football game, or
Yeah.
something along those lines. That interview or the press conference, the post game press conference that's going all around. But my problem is like, so he talks about how they went 1 for 4 in the red zone, right? And the Patriots did, and blah blah blah. But at the same time, I'm like, Sean, when you scored that touchdown, Coach McDermott, when you scored that touchdown, the only reason that you were in the red zone was because N'Keal Harry muffed a punt with his face. It's the only reason that you were up in the red zone. Because I don't know if he remembers, but he was punting the ball at that point. It's not like you marched down the field of the Patriots and scored in the red zone.
Exactly.
The ball was given to you in the red zone. I just don't know why he's upset that people think that Bill Belichick won that game, because Bill Belichick won that football game. Bill Belichick outsmarted the Buffalo Bills, outcoached the hell out of Sean McDermott. And not only that, I mean, you're saying embarrassed, right? I'm trying to think about another word that might not be as harsh, but you knew what they were doing the whole time.
Like predictable. It got to a point where I don't know how you felt while you were watching, Nick, but I started getting upset. I'm like, yo, what the hell are the Patriots doing? Are they gonna not even a play action play? Not even a play action play where you try to make a pass? No. So it started getting very predictable. All right, we know what we're doing. They're running the ball every time. And the Buffalo Bills could not stop them. And don't get me wrong, obviously, yeah, the conditions, the wind. I know they said it was snowing earlier in Buffalo, whatever the case was. So the conditions didn't help the situation. But either way you look at it, the Patriots had a game plan that they executed throughout 4 quarters, and the Buffalo Bills couldn't do anything to stop them. So yeah, I use the word embarrassed because you would think that a team, a coaching staff, figures it out after a while. You would think that they would figure it out, but nah, Buffalo couldn't get it together at all. So they're a very embarrassed football team. But Bills Nation, Bills Mafia, whatever the hell they're called, they should all feel embarrassed right now.
Just, I mean, the disrespect.
Hey man, if the roles were reversed and they did that to the Patriots and the Patriots lost, I'd be ashamed. Like the sadness, the pain, the anger I'd feel right now, like this would be a very angry roundtable show. But
here's the thing though. Here's the thing though. Like if the Patriots, so I'm not saying if the Patriots literally did nothing but run the football, right? If they lost that game, let's say on that last drive, Josh Allen does get into the end zone and they lose that game, we have a totally different tone today. We're like, okay, maybe you should have let Mac Jones throw the football more. But the thing is, like, it does suck that we were so looking forward to this game. Like, this is one of the most hyped up games for a regular season game that I remember in years, because it was for the AFC East. It was for the AFC. And Bills, Patriots, Monday Night Football, only game on, primetime football. Like, can't wait for it. The nation is going to be watching it. And then we get hit with this crappy weather, with this wind. But the thing is, once you see all that coming into play, that's when you start to go, okay, this is a Bill Belichick type game. When the weather is a major factor, when you really have to coach, when you really have to think, when you really have to just find a way to win the football game. Because that's what those types of games come down to. It's nothing special. It's nothing fancy. It's ugly. You just have to find a way to win the football game. And that's what Bill Belichick does. And that's what the Patriots did on Monday night. Now, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get to see, like, dry conditions in a dome. I want to see these two teams go at it, because the Bills are a good football team. I want to see these two teams go at it. But again, this is football. This is the NFL. You're going to come into situations like this. You have to figure out how to win those games. And again, that's exactly what the Patriots did. All right. So, now that we have this, by the way, like, you talk about the Bills and how they're kind of in trouble right now, right? They lose to the Patriots. They drop down to 7-5, all the way down to the fifth. Are they the fifth seed now? They must be the fifth seed, right? Because that's what the Patriots are going to drop down to. Whatever the case may be, doesn't really matter. You know who they're playing next week? A
Indianapolis.
guy who owns their ass. Tampa Bay.
Oh, who, Bills?
The Bills? Not the
playing
Patriots,
Tampa
I'm
Bay.
sorry. The Bills.
Okay.
Tom Brady owns Buffalo's ass.
Oh, yeah. And now he has a great team. It's going to make it even tougher on Buffalo.
If you think, listen, genuinely, the Bills are probably going to fall down to 7-6. And you look at the Patriots' schedule for the rest of the way. I'll talk about the future Bills game in the second, December 26th. The toughest game to me at this point now is the Colts. The Colts are looking really good. That defense is looking really good. Jonathan Taylor, Mike.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
Yeah. He's the guy that obviously strikes the most fear in my eyes when I look at that roster. But, you know, in my opinion, unless Jonathan Taylor has one of the games similar to that he's had earlier in the season, you know, I don't fear Indianapolis like that. I don't think Carson Wentz. Well, I feel as if Carson Wentz is somebody where Belichick looks at him, looks at his skill set, and just goes like, we know how to handle this guy. Something about just Carson Wentz gives me the impression of Bill Belichick is, what is the term, chomping at the bit when it comes to facing Carson Wentz, because I just feel like Belichick knows how to game plan to handle him. Now, handling Jonathan Taylor and his backup, what's his name, Nakeem Hines?
Hines.
Yep, Hines. I think, they have a solid 1-2 punch there. Obviously, Taylor leads the way.
And they've got a great offensive line.
Yeah, and Taylor does his thing. So I feel as if, that can be, their running game can make things interesting, because if we're talking about the Patriots, obviously they held the Bills in check in that Monday night game. But the game before that against the Tennessee Titans, we saw how those two running backs had their way against the Patriots in their matchup.
And the Bills' run game stinks.
Yeah,
the Bills' run game is awful.
That's not their strength at all. Their strength is, their quarterback dropping back and making plays down the field to Diggs and whatnot. But the game before that, like I said, against Tennessee, where you had, that their running game pretty much go off against you, you could see something similar if the Patriots aren't on their P's and Q's when they're dealing with the Indianapolis Colts running game, because Jonathan Taylor is quite possibly, especially now that Derrick Henry's not in the picture, the best running back in the game. So, it is the biggest game probably coming up. Well, not the biggest game, but it is an interesting game, because it's not a team that you would assume the Patriots can just walk right over, instead, when you look at the team like the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up, I don't think much people are worried about the Jaguars, but the Colts, because their running game is very dynamic, it makes it a little more interesting.
So I would say that I think it is the biggest game coming up, because listen, the Bills, I would say it was the Bills December 26th, but I think they're going to lose next week. The Patriots, right, they're probably going to have at least one more loss through the season, maybe, but they could win out. Like, you look at the schedule, and they very well could win out. They only have 4 games left in the season. You got the Colts, the Bills, the Jaguars, and the Dolphins.
That's the team right there.
The Dolphins.
You know why, Nick?
If you go 2-0 against the Bills and you go 0-2 against the Dolphins,
Nick, we've seen, and it's in Miami too. We've seen some season funny business against the Miami Dolphins a couple of times over the years. It's the last game. Sometimes Belichick wants to have some weird game plan where he doesn't want to play certain people. I don't know. And especially if the Patriots are in a situation where they lock up the number 1 seed or...
Well, yeah, if that's the case, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But for some reason, against the Miami Dolphins in Miami, it gives me a weird feeling. Like I said, I don't fear Indianapolis. You've shown that you can hang with and beat the Buffalo Bills. No one's really concerned about the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's, to me, that Miami game. Because in my opinion, this past Monday night's game was the biggest game of the season. And that game told me everything I needed to learn about this New England Patriots team. Now I can confidently say this New England Patriots team will be one of the 2 teams in the AFC Championship game. I can confidently say that now. Because
they can beat anybody in the AFC. They absolutely can beat anybody in the AFC. I
believe it. I know they haven't faced the Chiefs yet. I know they haven't faced the Ravens. but this team has showed me enough, especially coming out of this Bills game, where they can hang and be in a game with anybody.
Listen, if Bill Belichick had any other quarterback last year other than Brian Hoyer against the Chiefs, he's beating the Chiefs last year. I think he can handle the Chiefs fine this year when they're clearly on a down year. Now, going back to the Bills really quick, 2 questions about the Bills. Josh Allen right now is your best runner, right? Why didn't you run more with him? And he was getting some decent chunk yards when he was running the football. And that's just what I mean. Like Bill Belichick doesn't. That's one thing about Bill Belichick and everybody else. Bill Belichick makes sure that the team doesn't beat themselves. There are certain points in that game last night for the Bills that you look at them, you're like, okay, you kind of beat yourselves because you know the weather conditions. Your tight end is one of the best in the league is dropping passes.
Yep.
You know you've Josh Allen, who's one of the best. I would say, that's probably one of the best running quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Why are you not running with him more in weather conditions like this? Because he's a big guy. He's gonna. It's cold. It's wet. People aren't gonna want to tackle him when he's running full steam. They're just not. Why didn't you run more with him? And continuing with the Bills, the reason I think the Patriots are going to beat them on December 26th is because of what we saw after the game last night. We saw Poyer, we saw Hyde, and we saw Sean McDermott. Mike, the Bills are coming unglued.
Yeah. You saw that press conference with those 2 defensive guys. You know, it seems as if, you know, not only coming out of the game, but now you have the media saying what they're saying. Like,
the media is chirping them.
It's in their head now where, yeah, they couldn't stop the Patriots. They couldn't stop their run game. It's in their head now where, geez, the whole thing was, you know, are the Bills legitimate? Because, you know, the AFC has gone through the Patriots over the last how many years?
But and the whole thing was legitimate? The dynasty was done. It was theirs. It was the Bills to take.
And the thing is, no matter how great the Bills have looked the last couple of years, what it boils down to is if you're really going to stake your claim as the new king of the AFC East, you have to be able to beat the New England Patriots. And that was a big Monday night game, nationally televised games. Everybody's watching everywhere. You lost and you got embarrassed. You didn't just lose, you got embarrassed. So now
I'm looking to the TV to my left right now. I'm sorry, TV to my left. Just the fact that it's just that I'm seeing these numbers. The Patriots won a football game, the biggest of the year, with your quarterback going 2 for 3 for 19 yards. And he played the entire game.
Listen,
if you show me that stat line in 10 years, if you show me that stat line in 10 years, I'm like, okay, Matt got hurt that game. Like, no, he played that whole football game. You won.
I think if you ever, you know, when Bill Belichick's career is over and you want to look back at games, because there's games obviously throughout his career, you know, unfortunately for him, he's had Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. But there's also been some games here and there we can say, okay, Bill Belichick coached a hell of a game, a smart game and whatnot. That game, Monday night, which was what, December 6th, 2021, you'll look at that game, Belichick coached a great. That'll go in his reel of one of his best games ever coached. Because while we may question his game plan and whatnot, it worked and they came out with a victory.
Yeah, and that's what we mean. Like if you're gonna be like the new top dog, right? You have to figure out ways to win that game. You can blame the weather all you want, but you have to figure out ways to win that game. And that's what the Patriots did. Look, the Patriots on their first touchdown, the Damian Harris, 65-yard touchdown or whatever it was, they didn't try to kick the extra point into the wind. They went for 2, and they got it. Again, man, not only did they
try that out,
not only did they get it, but they ran it.
Yep.
I can't get up the Bills. Everybody in the world knew what they were doing every play, and you couldn't stop them. I mean, you kind of did. You get only 14 points, but you couldn't stop them. It's just unbelievable. Now, Mike, I want to ask you this final question before we wrap it up here. Bill Belichick, obviously in the conversation for Coach of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Did last night's game aid his argument for Coach of the Year, or did it hurt it?
Oh, aided it 100%. And obviously, you know, a lot what plays into people looking at Bill Belichick for coach of the year is the fact that what he's done with Mac Jones in a rookie season. Now, Mac Jones didn't have it's like he barely even played last night. Mac Jones had probably the easiest job next to the kicker and the punter. Well, it was probably tough on the kicker and the punter because of the weather conditions, but Mac Jones just had to drop back and hand the ball. The jersey he wore last night in the game, he could wear next week because it's probably clean, wasn't touched at all, fresh and clean. But I think just overall with the fact that you saw what kind of season they had last year, and coming off of last year, you didn't know what to expect with a rookie quarterback. And yeah, you spent an offseason kind of building up a new team, but you did not know if the Patriots still had the same, aura that they've had over the years, especially with Tom Brady gone. But we're talking about, a few weeks left in the season, and the Patriots are the best team in the AFC. That's huge. A couple wins away. Hey, depending how things shake out, you could maybe have the best team in the NFL. Now, that's asking a lot. And I won't jump that gun yet and whatnot. But right now, at this very moment, you have the best team in the AFC, and nobody thought that was going to happen with a rookie quarterback.
If the Patriots take the 1 seed, Mike, and they have the bye week, that is insane compared to what we thought this team, compared to just like the low balling we were doing at the start of the year. Again, just like how I started off this show, it was, if the Patriots make the playoffs this year, that's a win.
Yep.
Hell yeah. There we go. They made the playoffs. They went 7-9 last year. They make the playoffs this year, and maybe next year you take another step forward. No, the Patriots said, F that. We're going to beat the Bills. We're going to take the 1 seed, and we're going to be legitimately betting favorites near the end of the season to go to the Super Bowl against your old guy, Tom Brady. Now, let me read this real quick. We'll wrap up the show. This was asked on the Greg Hill Show to Bill Belichick, and this just goes with the passing game. Due to weather, will you be able to take anything from the game to the December 26th game, from the game into the December 26th game with the Bills? Belichick laughs, and he goes, yeah, we were talking about that last night. We can use our whole passing game. All the pass plays we have, they haven't seen, which is hilarious.
Funny guy.
That's
Bill.
Hilarious. Listen, this team, they seem to love each other. Bill, I don't think I've ever seen Bill have more fun. Bill's having a blast.
I mean, he's taking a team from the ground up. And when I say team, I can't even talk. When we're talking about from the ground up, a rookie quarterback, he's not getting blessed like he was the last 20 years. You're talking about a rookie quarterback who you're taking from the ground up and now building a championship contending team. Bill Belichick is having fun because now not all the talk. I mean, Mac Jones is getting some hype because he's a rookie playing well, but not all the hype is what is Tom Brady doing? Tom Brady leading the way. Now it's getting magnified. I'm sure Bill loves this a little bit. That's just human nature. But yeah, I am a hell of a damn good coach. I am a hell of a coach. And this is what I'm doing with this team and this rookie quarterback.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good at it.
So he's having a good time. I definitely could see a little more smile and whatnot coming out of Bill the more and more this team wins and finds success.
This is a lot more fun than last year. A lot more fun.
Hell yeah, without a doubt.
Hey, last year, man, I was heading to the championship of my fantasy football league, let me tell you. This year, going into last week, I was 1-10. But you know what I've been doing the last 2 weeks? My guy Nick Folk getting me points. I'm 1-10. I played the second place team last week, beat him, knocked him all the way down to 5th place. Played the first place team this week, beat him. I am so far out of it. I'm just wreaking havoc at the top of my standings.
Spoiler.
I'm just wreaking havoc. I scored the most points this week. You should see my team. It stinks. I traded everybody away for draft picks. My team stinks. But you know what? I forgot to trade Dave Montgomery, so I still have Dave Montgomery on my team, which sucks. I got offered a pick, and I just forgot about it. All right. CLNS Media Patriots Roundtable. Nick Quaglia, Mike Molyneux. We will be back next week with Marv Zahn as we preview the Colts-Patriots Saturday night primetime football game. Again, Nick Quaglia, Mike Molyneux. Guys, we're going to talk to you next week. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.